fun. So Anna Twohig, thank you so much for joining us. You are a grant writing unicorn to the 10th power. So excited to be able to learn from you. So thank you for sharing everything that you know in this quick little interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so our story together goes back several years. So why did you decide you wanted to learn grants? Like way back when you were deciding to leave, I thought, the last job.
I think you had a lot to do with that, Meredith, if you recall.
I did. I encourage you to do it, but did I suggest it, or were you
Oh
considering?
yeah, you did. I was in the current job I was in. I had been in for like 7 years and wasn't really happy. It was kind of becoming like this toxic situation, and I ended up just finally quitting with no plan. Like I had no plan. Like I just have to get out. And I don't know, I think we went mountain biking together or something, and I was talking to you about it. You're like, you ever thought about trying grant writing? I'm like, no.
No kidding.
And you're like, you should try it. And then I think we just started the conversation from there. And I started looking into it, and I was like, this could really play to my strengths. I have an English and writing background, and it's something I enjoy. And I was like, had no other plans. So I was like, why not?
That's so funny. I totally don't even remember that was the origin story. I love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then, then I was like, Meredith, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
He
And
said,
at the
"Fake
time,
it till you make it, Anna. It'll work out."
yeah, we did not have an online course. There was no book. I think I emailed you a bunch of like, here's a sample contract. Just go win a project.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely like helped me out in the beginning, like getting going and just like, here, do this.
Yeah, so fun. And then you ended up landing a full-time job grant writing. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think you also had a little bit to do with that as well. After I first started getting going and kind of starting my own grant writing business and kind of planting all those seeds and doing all that, things were starting to get going. And then, I got the job offer for my current place of employment doing grant writing, but they originally were looking to get you to work there, and you were happy and already employed, and you said, you should call Anna. She's a grant writing unicorn. Yep. And I still at that point didn't have a lot of experience, but they had,
yeah,
all hired me, and I've been there for going on 4 years. So
funny, the power of referrals and the power of just being trained well. I mean, you knew what to do and you were gonna learn it. I also had I think I did like 2 tiny transportation improvement grants. So when I was interviewing for my full-time grant writing job, and that's like all I could talk about, and I'm like, oh, it's like nothing, but you can still land the job if you have some basic training.
Yeah, turns out though, people hate writing grants, like most people, and so they don't even care. So that's where the fake it till you make it really comes in handy, because if you're excited about it and you're willing to do it and kind of gung-ho, they're like, great, do it, because I don't even want to look at it or think about it, just make it happen. It's like, okay. So that's
true.
Yeah, that's something I learned. People actually asked me, you're actually seeking out grant writing, like you want to do this? I was like a little offended. I was like, should I not want to do this?
Yeah,
like,
what am I missing?
I just personally hate writing grants. I thought that was weird, but
you're like, do you like to do the same thing over and over? I love new projects.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big part of it, is that it's a new project starting over every time.
Exactly. I tell people that we become like dangerously knowledgeable about a lot of things.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So true. Cool. So what have been some of your proudest accomplishments thus far in your grant writing journey?
I think I was thinking about this earlier this morning. I know you'd sent me the questions, get the creative juices flowing. I think just the whole journey itself, just the risk taking involved has been really fun. It's been fun doing something completely new and not knowing what I'm doing and having to figure it out. And turns out that's what every grant is like. Every grant is new and different guidelines, different focus. It could be the same grant from year to year, and something changes a little bit. So just, being okay with not having all the answers, but knowing that you can figure them out and working through it, has been really fun and really rewarding. And it's actually, you know, the whole process is taking me places professionally that I would have never, I think, considered. And that's something that I've talked about with some of the other folks that have taken your course, the grant writing community. They've asked similar questions, like, how did you get into it? I was like, well, I just kept saying yes, even though I didn't know where it would lead. And good things kept happening, and opportunities presented themselves, and I kept saying yes, and it's been great. So
Yeah, I think my story was the exact same in terms of the same journey. So it is exciting because you just get to get into some experiences that I feel like we never would have otherwise been qualified to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
oh yeah. Well, and starting out too, like my background was more starting out in the private sector with like nonprofits and private funding sources. And by saying yes again and again, now I'm working more like with public funds and for like engineering, which I'm not an engineer. I know you're very close to being an engineer. I think you wanted to be an engineer.
But never could do it. Was too bad at math, so I had to find the back door in, which was be the grant writer.
Yeah, so that's been really interesting, and I don't think I would have ever considered being anywhere in that world, and it's actually been really fun. And I kind of like you are a unicorn amongst engineers, because they definitely don't want to do the grant writing.
Yes.
But they're fun to work with because they offer such a good opposite perspective, so it makes for awesome collaboration. So that part's really fun, collaborating on projects.
So you don't only work for the engineering firm, but you also have volunteered as a grant writer. So can you talk about some of your volunteering and what you've done?
So I volunteer for 2 nonprofits that I do grant writing for. One is SheJumps, which is, our mission is to basically increase the participation of more girls and women in outdoor sports, whatever that looks like. And I was a volunteer for them, I think, for several years before I started grant writing for them, and I still do. And that's been a lot of fun. That's more like outdoor recreation grants and things like that. The other nonprofit work I've done is for a local mountain bike nonprofit, Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, here in Spokane or Eastern Washington. We don't do a lot of grants, but I'm the go-to person. I'm the expert. So that's been fun. So it's a nice balance. It's a lot different than grants for civil engineering projects.
Yeah, 100%. So looking forward, what if you were to have a new chapter in your career, what would that look like?
Good question. It has been going on, 4 years. I mean, you get that itch. I know you get it probably way earlier than 4 years, where you're like, what am I going to do next? Like, where can I challenge myself? And I think a potential path for me, the work I do right now is for small rural municipalities, small communities in Eastern Washington. I love that. I grew up in one of those communities, and so I love working with the people, and the projects that you get funded really truly make a difference to whether they have clean drinking water or working sewer systems or working roads. But looking ahead, I think bigger projects are going to be the challenge for me that will be really fun exploring. I mean, right now, the budgets I'm working with, I don't think I've worked with a project budget bigger than, I don't know, 15 or 20 million. And which when I first started, I was like, oh my God, because the grants I was writing before that were like for 5,000 and 10,000. Oh, and maybe 25,000. Oh my gosh, and now you're asking for 15 million. I mean, that took a while to wrap my brain around, like, okay, this is different. different ball game. And now looking at bigger projects that are more like, maybe 50 million or 200 million or
Mhm.
it's different funding sources, different projects, but the process ultimately remains the same, I think. I mean, as you've done all kinds of projects. It's really about organization and that willingness to figure it out, like ferret out every little detail and keep everybody on task and moving forward, no matter what the grant is.
So how do you feel that you've learned some of your best project management skills? Because that's such a big part of grant writing successfully.
I think a big part is just personality. Like, I've always been pretty organized. Like, I get made fun of a lot because my calendars and multiple calendars, and they're all color coded. I mean, my husband's like, people walk by my desk and they're like, "Oh my God, it's a rainbow of color." But it's just, that's how I remember things. You can't remember everything. So whenever I don't want to forget something, I make a calendar reminder. So it pops up and says, "Don't forget to contact this person or look into this funding source." So I've already naturally kind of been that way. But I've also had some really great mentors on how to do that, like, effectively, to actually effectively collaborate with a lot of people and keep everybody on task, because just being organized isn't going to do it, right? You have to work with so many different personality types. And working with engineers, like, that was a new one. Like, how am I going to get these guys moving? Because they really want to focus on the details, which they are very, very good at. But, they're constantly running up against deadlines, and you're like, it is due today. Like,
This is
you promised
preventable.
me this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so walking that line of, being assertive and, like, really keeping people on task, but also you have to be pleasant. Like, people
Mhm.
want to work with you. So figuring that out has been kind of fun, because you just don't want to be like nagging people all the time, even though that is what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you can present it as, "Hey, I'm trying to help you succeed and the whole team succeed, and you promised me this, so it's due. Do you want help? I'll sit down and we'll work it out right now, but I'm not leaving until you give it to me."
Yeah. 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 Graceful nagging. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a
Uh,
reputation.
yep. Yeah, that's awesome. So you participated in our very first cohort of grant
Yeah.
writing from start to funded. And so thank you for that. And what were some of the takeaways or useful resources that you took from the class?
I think for me, it was fun taking it with other people, because everybody had such different experience. I'm from a little experience to a lot of experience, and then in all different fields. So I liked hearing about other people's experiences. I think it's probably also why, like, I love your book, because it's about your experience, and it's just down to earth. Like, this is what happened, this is how I dealt with it, because everybody can relate to that, right?
Mhm.
And so through the course, hearing people's stories and sharing ideas um, was awesome. And also, I like that we have access to that after the course. I wasn't sure how that part was going to work when you were talking about it. You're like, "No, I have this vision. There's going to be this grant writing community, and you're going to have access forever if you take the course." I was like, I don't know how much I'll actually use that. And I've actually used it a lot, uh, especially as my career has changed and evolved. I'm like, well, what about this grant? Who's done a grant like this? And I think that's a valuable resource, because somebody in that community will have done one or something similar and can at least point you in the right direction.
Right.
That, and also, I loved learning about instrumental,
Mhm.
and I didn't even know it existed. So learning about it, learning how to use it, and then I did sign up for it and got the discounted price, which was awesome from taking the course. So instrumental was a big takeaway for me as well.
Do you know how I discovered that?
No.
I was actually filming a video, my very first ever course. That was so bad, but the first one I was filming how to do grant research and had stumbled on it while filming. And I
Really?
was like, oh, wait a minute. This is changing everything I know about grant
You're like,
research.
I need to bookmark this.
Yeah, I like stopped the video and just like dove into it and just totally overhauled how I actually teach finding grants after finding it. But it was an accident while filming for the course.
Yeah, no, that is such a great resource, and it's so much better than any of the other grant funding, like research engines or
Right.
whatever platforms. It's very easy to use and very useful, like how they organize information for you and present it.
Yeah, I think that the reason we like them too is they're just refreshingly modern, and we're trying to
Yep.
bring modern approach to grant writing, and there's just
Mhm.
not much of that. It's a lot of kind of an old school approach.
Yep, and you're not finding the same grants. Like you're not finding the ones necessarily that you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So if someone is trying to decide if they should take the class, what would you tell them?
Oh, absolutely. To take it. Yeah. I mean, I think uh, you're going to get something out of it, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how much or how little. And I think that's something when we did the first run together, I think that became apparent to you and everyone taking the course that we needed different tiers of learning for the different experience levels or for what people were most interested in. Like some people had strengths and they didn't want to focus on that part of the learning, but they had other things they wanted to work on. So I feel like it's in a lot of ways, it's really custom and it's really interactive, and hands-on, which I think that's how I learn best. I think a lot of people learn best by just doing it. And that's what I liked about it. You were forced to do the exercise, which you needed to go through. And you learn a lot going through that and looking at other people's work because you might that's what the other thing I like to see, be able to, with the shared files where you could look at other people's projects and how far they had gotten or how they had handled certain aspects of the task. And you could also give your feedback if someone was struggling. So that was cool.
Yeah, 100%. Cool.
Yeah, I would
Um,
highly recommend it.
Sweet. Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Yeah.
So if there's one thing we could do to continue to serve you, because your journey is not at the end here, what would that look like?
Like I already mentioned, the grant writing community has been a great resource. I'm not in there all the time, but when I need it, and people have been really responsive and, quick to respond and be helpful. And I've tried to do the same thing. It's definitely a two-way street. I've had people contact me from, you know, that community and say, hey, can I have 20 minutes of your time and just talk to you about a couple things? And so that's been kind of cool, like meeting people all across the United States that are trying to do the same thing, and have different projects. So that's been cool. I think would help me, or what I would love is things I found really useful were the spreadsheets and the documents for organization or for kind of project planning and development. Those sorts of tools were really useful. And so anything else like that you have created on your journey, because you have quite an extensive journey in grant writing and consulting and project management. So personally, I'm interested in what do people's to-do checklists look like, and how do they organize their information? Because I have my own system. I think lots of people have their own systems, but I'm more interested in the behind the scenes logistics. So that would be really interesting to me if we start seeing more tools like that.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the project management element's been coming up a lot. So we actually just added in the updated course, like, oh, excuse that, but the tools of the trade. So we're now using like Asana, and we have a template that we just copy when we start a new project. And so
Yeah.
all of this skeleton is in place, and then you go and customize it per the grant. But so you might check out that video if you haven't seen some of those new ones that are in the bonus section.
I'd like to see that. And if it's helpful, I mean, if other people wanted to share what they're using. I've certainly developed templates over the years just for even just like meeting agendas or action item to-do lists like that come out of meetings to organize. Okay, well, we agreed that so-and-so was going to do this, this, and this by this deadline, and like a living document that you update.
Yeah, always share things if you're finding them super successful and you're loving it.
Yeah, there's just certain, there's that, again, that fine line between too much information and enough just to keep, give everyone that snapshot of what needs to happen by when, and then regularly update it. So
yeah, completely.
Tools like that are my favorite.
Yeah,
I'd love to see more
I
of
get
that.
it. Especially as you start to, grow and the complexity grows. As those projects get bigger and more complicated, that's when those systems really matter.
Yeah, I see. Segue. I want to pick your brain about how you stay organized for like something as large as a build grant, and what your schedule was and how you kept people, like how you divided the tasks. And
well, pro tip number one: don't break your collarbone in the middle of the grant cycle. That would be tip number one. That was crazy trying to write that proposal with a broken collarbone.
I can't even imagine.
It was stupid. But yeah, I'd say that what's really helped us level up, because we still have the consulting side of the business, has been this. I brought on an actual trained project manager, and she has put so much of our process into place. Like, she's the one that got us into Asana, got our team agenda super dialed, has like the workflow really, really, it's just excellent with the client and then our grant writing team. So yeah, you are welcome to just jump into one of our weekly team syncs and see how it goes or whatever at some point.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I would definitely be interested in that, because the other thing, going back to your question about like what's next in the journey, what I'm learning, and you probably learned this too, is as your career evolves, it depends on what you're doing and what you want to do. But I feel like in some ways I've done less grant writing and more project management, which I love, because I love to organize things and people and keep everybody moving along. And so I see that being probably the biggest role for me moving forward with these larger projects. It's not so much writing the grant itself. A lot of times with the bigger projects, the client's going to do that on their own. They have enough, in-house staff or whatever resources, but they don't have someone cracking the whip and making sure everybody's staying on task and doing it correctly. So I like that part.
Totally. And it's high value, super high value. Yeah, completely. And then the last thing I would tell you is, if you didn't watch the replay from the Freedom of Information Act webinar we did yesterday.
Oh, it's on my list. Yeah.
So good. It was so good. Tara knocked it out of the park. Way informative. I learned a lot. It was fun to be a student. So
yeah, I've attended like grant writing classes before where they mentioned that, like, oh yeah, you should just do that, but they didn't break down the process, because I was like, what do you mean? Like,
just do that.
It's not to give it to me.
No, like, not a just do that. There was so much more behind the scenes than we realized. Yeah, how to get your hands on past successful grant applications and not anger your funder while at it. So it is definitely
right. That was the thing, because when I last heard about it, the instructor was kind of flippant about, and I'm like, well, I don't want to make them mad, like because legally I can ask for it. I'm not going to demand it and put them in hot water with their supervisor. Like, that doesn't seem like a great approach.
No, not at all. No.
Okay, no, I'm going to watch that, definitely.
Sweet. Well, thank you for the feedback in terms of things we can do to continue to serve you, because I think there's going to be more and more people following in your path where you're maturing. And I'm thinking a lot about how do we serve you as you're not a beginner anymore and you become a more intermediate and advanced grant writer. So have some ideas, but it's good to hear your feedback feeding into that, as it's something we will get to launch next year.
So, sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Anna. It was absolutely awesome to interview you. Thank you for just everything that you shared. It's so cool to have watched you go from like 0 to 100.
Yeah, well, thanks for pushing me into the deep end right away and just sink or swim, and I came out on top, so it worked out.
Came out like an Olympian swimmer.
Woo!
Awesome. All right, see ya.
Bye.